In this skimboarding tips and tricks video, we will discuss when and where you want to drop your skimboard. This is another very basic part of the sport, but it's very important that you pick the right spots at the right time. Otherwise, you will have a hard time getting the proper setup for a good ride on your skimboard. My name is Frank, here on Stereotypical Beach Looking Guy. If you're new here, I'd like to ask that you leave a like and subscribe if any of my videos have helped you out. It's a free and easy way to help me out in return. Now let's get into the tips. So most people might be thinking, don't you just drop the board on the wet sand when the wave washes up? And I couldn't really argue with you on that, but when it comes to making the most out of your rides and progressing over time, it's a lot more than just waiting for some wet sand. When it comes to when and where you should drop, there are many things you need to take into consideration first. The first thing is making sure you have the space to run, drop, and slide without having people or objects in your way. People, animals, rocks, and shells can all cause a distraction when trying to ride the skimboard. It's a good idea to make sure the spot you choose is free from as much of this as possible, because they can all create a distraction that can lead to falls and injuries. If necessary, pick up rocks and debris and move it to the top of the beach out of your way. If someone comes and blocks your lane, ask politely that they allow you the space you need and suggest a better spot that you will not be using. The second thing is figuring out the slope and setup that you have to work with. If you don't already know, the slope is generally the area the waves wash up and down at. Many cases, this slope doesn't actually slope and is more of a flat sandbar. Either way, we will refer to it as a slope. Setup is how clean the waves, backwash, whitewater, wind, chop, and etc. set up for a good slide. The main thing to realize here is that each of these slopes has a different way that you skin them. Flat slope is good for practice and beginners learning to get comfortable. Higher pitch slopes are for more experienced riders who try to catch waves. Flat slope is great for getting comfortable with your drop because it often has a very calm wave break and you can get used to getting on the board without a big slope always pulling you down to the waves. Also, the very flat surface makes it easier to drop the board smoothly and you usually have a lot more space to work with on a flat slope beach. Depending on your body weight, the size of the board, and how fast you can run while dropping comfortably will determine the best amount of water to sand ratio in most cases. The bigger you are and the smaller the board, the harder it will be overall. You want a board that is proportional to your body size. If you're using the proper size board, then the general area to drop is much easier to obtain. Unfortunately, some beaches do not set up well for skim. For example, they offer minimal or if any waves at all, not allowing enough backwash onto the slope so you have no room to drop. I would not recommend using a beach like this, but I can understand if you have no choice. When it comes to learning the basics, there is a very similar pattern across all the different beach types. A very important point I need to make is when in this beginner stage, you want to allow yourself plenty of room for a run, drop, and slide. Being able to consistently get on the board and feel how it is to actually slide for a couple of seconds will give you more progress per run than what crashing or sinking the very moment you jump on will give. So with that being said, waiting for a wave to wash up high enough is ideal. Patience is key with getting good slides. Waiting for the wave that makes you feel the most comfortable is in the right position and setup will be well worth it. Now you want to position your run and drop for the longest slide possible. This can be achieved by getting lower on the slope and in some cases slightly running up the slope to catch the very top of the wet sand. It's important to build momentum before you drop the board. When not comfortable with the skimboard, many people will stand still, throw the board, and then start running after it. Avoid this at all costs. There is a term in skimboarding which is run, drop, slide. So always remember, it's not drop, run, slide. Build your momentum first. Now you want to pay attention to when the better waves start to wash up. When waves come into shore, they usually come in sets. This means when you see better waves start to come in, there should be around 3 to 5 waves that follow. Then you should start to notice that it dies out for a short period of time. Sets will come and go fast, and you don't want to miss them. Within a set of waves, some are larger and set up for better rides than others, and it can be tricky to pick the right ones out. From my experience, when sets come in, the best wave is usually the second to last one in the set. Waiting for at least the first 2 waves to pass will smooth out the area and make for a cleaner area to slide in. The ones following, you want to be looking for a spot with good setup. When you pick a spot to drop, you want to look way ahead of where your goal spot to reach is. You don't want to be dropping your board right on top of another incoming wave, or an area that is deep, dry, sloppy, or people and shells in the way. Waiting for the proper setup is key for good slides. The whole point here is to learn getting comfortable with transitioning onto the board and getting long slides. The more time you spend moving around on the board, the more you can get comfortable and learn better control. So, you're positioned low, waiting for a good wave to set up a nice area to run, drop, slide. When you run and get ready to drop, you need to have good control over the board when it drops. Being scared to drop the board while running and trying to jump on it is common, and people will often sort of just plop the board down with no consideration of how it's going to react to hitting the ground. This will make it nearly impossible to even get both feet on the board. When the board drops, it needs to maintain level with the ground, making firm and even contact. So this means that whatever angle the sand is, you need to drop the board at the same angle. Being confident is a big part in this and takes a lot of practice. If the board drops unevenly, it's going to go out of control and can be really hard to feel comfortable with. Trial and error will be your best friend here. One thing with skimboarding, you will fail 1,000,000 times before you ever start to rise in skill level. Be prepared for that. You can only learn by trying and trying again. Other people can only teach you so much. The last thing is considering how much water you should drop on. With a proper size board, there's a very wide range of water levels you should drop on. When you're learning, the best place to drop is as the backwash recedes, the moment there's just a very thin layer of water. It's very easy to recognize after you spot a couple times. Make sure you're taking advantage of as much of this space as possible and timing your drop with the backwash accordingly. It's all about how you react to the waves. To summarize, starting low on the slope gives you room to drop high on the slope, allowing you to take advantage of as much wet sand space as possible before hitting the deeper water. Practicing this way gives you a greater chance of actually getting on the board and making a ride last for more than 2 seconds. Knowing the right spot and time is essential to getting the best experience out of every run, and patience for proper setup is key, along with dropping your board under control. Your drop is the bread and butter of your skimboarding, so you should never stop working to improve it. The hardest part about skimboarding for a beginner is the amount of practice it takes to get good at drops and slides. It will take a lot of effort to get really good at it, and whether or not you do will mostly depend on your desire to skimboard in general. If it's not something you really found a passion for, it may be more difficult for you to put the amount of time and energy necessary. Everyone learns at a different pace and have different conditions we have to work with, so please take all these things into consideration. So that's going to wrap up my video on how and when and where to drop your skimboard. at a basic beginner level. If you found this video helpful and informative, please give me a like and subscribe, and I also love to hear from you guys in the comment sections if you have any questions or video requests. This video was requested by Slurp Mang over on my The Art of Falling video. If you haven't checked that out, I suggest you go and have a listen. A great little discussion on how you can prevent injuries and hurting yourself so often on a skimboard. Thanks again for watching. I will see you around next time here on Stereotypical Beach Looking Guy. I'm Frank. Take care.